Okay, dude, you ready?
I know words. I have the best words.
Ego death is one of the questions I get asked to talk most about. Someone I really like, Sri Ramana Maharshi, talks about this as his core teaching. His main teaching is to trace the ego to its source. The ego only is sustainable when it's able to attach itself to something. Ramana Maharshi says the ego will be destroyed by constantly attending to the source, constantly seeking out the source of where it's coming from. Where is this ego springing out of? We're always looking for the answer out there, but that's the wrong place to look. The real truth is not what we're looking for, but the truth is what is looking. Who am I? Who am I? Maharshi says that this question, who am I, is not meant for an answer. It's meant to dissolve the questioner. You are not the limitations of your ego. So to remove the boundaries of our ego, to remove the limitations, to loosen the noose of ourselves, we have to first identify what the ego is. One thing is that ego is dependent on thought. It doesn't exist on its own. You've heard me say this a lot before in videos, but absolute reality, the truth of reality, the foundation of reality, it must always be true. It doesn't come with names or forms. That which underlies all these names and forms is the true reality. It's not limited by anything, being itself limitless. So even though the ego has no form, it becomes established in itself by grabbing a hold of form. When we are in a state of deep sleep, for example, there's no ego. And none of us deny that we weren't there when we were sleeping, right? Our ego has a habit of attaching itself to these temporary objects of the senses. It brings the false idea that we are a body that is born and that dies. The true essence of our mind, at least according to advaita vedanta, which is a non-dual philosophy that comes out of Hinduism, it says the true essence of our mind is just pure awareness, just pure consciousness, and they call this Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means truth, Chit means consciousness, and Anand means bliss. You've also heard this idea from the Buddha about silencing your mind to experience truth. This is the same thing as ego death, the same thing that the Maharshi is teaching, just through a different perspective. That was the Buddha's way of directing people towards this realization that you aren't the ego. You're not bounded by thought. You are a limitless, infinite being that is inherently connected to everything. A cool metaphor that I found that describes the relationship between our true selves and our ego. Imagine that you have a clear crystal and you hold this crystal against a red flower. The crystal appears red. You hold it against a green leaf, it appears green. So the ego is like this, or you could say it's like water. It kind of takes form in whatever we are equipped to understand. The ego is what brings on this thought that I am the body, and through this identification with the body, all other thoughts spring up. Suffering, happiness, joy, all of these temporary things that we experience. It brings on all these thoughts of I am happy, I am sad, I am this, I am that. And through that, the whole world is created. But the truth is that there's a stillness beyond all of that. Take this symbol, for example. This is called Om. And it represents the different capacities of consciousness that human beings can tune into, that we have available to us. The waking state, the dream state, and the state of deep sleep. And then the transcendent state, which represents the unchangingness the foundation of where these three states spring out of. This is the transcendent state. It's the state that underlies all of these, that isn't changing. It's the pure consciousness. And this is who we really are. And this is what ego death is when we experience this. It's when we experience a place within ourselves that shows us that we still exist beyond thought, that there is something that's still there, that isn't bound to this prison of our mind. And the best technique for having this eternal self revealed to us is what the Maharshi teaches, and it's called self-inquiry, or Atma Vichara, which just means keeping your attention focused on the source, like we said in the beginning of the video, just keeping your attention focused on the source of thoughts. Ramana Maharshi says, search for the source of this I thought, and if you can get to the root of this I thought and quench it, then misery also goes along with it. If you want to know more about this, because I'm very limited in my understanding, I sort of just regurgitate what I read from Ramana Maharshi or Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, but these are two great people that you should look into, or Advaita Vedanta. This is a good place for you to start, a good place for me that really helped shake my reality and awaken me to, whatever this is, the stillness, the beingness that we truly are, the now, the moment. Be here now, as Ram Dass says. This is who we are.